I have probably one of the coolest jobs ever. I get to work with founders and growing businesses and building sustainable practices in how they lead, how they make decisions, and how they structure their business. It's not just cool because of who I get to work with, but it's how I get to work with them. When we think about sustainability, which is the theme for tonight, a lot of people tend to think of sustainability as ESG, corporate sustainability, responsibility, and all these technical terms that relate to like climate action or the end of the world. But when I talk about sustainability, it's very similar to what Austin was talking about. How can we sustain ourselves? How can we use our business as a tool to create lasting value and change? And for me, one of the reasons why I love the work that I do is because I get to show founders how to do this through experiential learning opportunities. We do consulting and we do coaching, but first we want to show you what it means to be a sustainable business. So we do really cool trips around the world, bringing this global practice down to local impact. So we have travel experiences that are very much immersed in technical learning, leadership development, and strategy development in Iceland and in Peru. I work with folks one-on-one for those that just need more of that one-on-one attention through mindset, how to make decisions to grow your business in the most effective and aligned way. To make our services more accessible, we do have peer group coaching, and I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like towards the end. And consulting. So this is like at the very pinnacle. Once you've kind of gone through our services, our MVI is minimum viable impact. We're showing people how to actually integrate impact into their work. So, right, seeing is believing through our trips, coaching is getting the mindset right, and then down to how do we apply this? How do we make this real? How do I make my business actually stand out with value creation through the impact work? And it's really fun. I said when I started this business, I don't want to do anything that keeps me in four walls. I need to be out in the world learning. So I created my business around that desire. We are a certified B Corp because we wanted to make sure that it is stamped and rooted and everyone knows through our brand that we are committed to advancing the movement and the principles of what B Corp does. So we are develop products that are also cradle to cradle. We are supported by universities and some leading global conferences and conveners. So today, I just want to gas you up a little bit before I really get started. Creatives are one of the most powerful pillars in our economy. You all have this amazing role to shape what we care about, to shape what we're looking at every single day. You have the power to feed our souls with imagination, memories, and creativity. And most importantly, we're in a world, in a time where we're not just here as consumers buying products. We want more, right? We have generations that are coming up, Gen Z, millennials that care more than just what the product is, what the end result is. And the creative economy has this amazing superpower that is able to dictate how we connect with those products, what we care about within those products. You are all that gap, that space in between what we consume and the meaning of those products. And that is incredible power to have. And so what I hope to talk about today is how do you create a business that can maintain that power? The question is not whether creative businesses matter. It's just how can we build businesses that maintain and carry that power forward? So the creative economy in itself generates over $1 trillion in our entire economy, over millions of jobs, despite the growing AI, right? And here in Pennsylvania, $30 million is contributed to our economy. So again, I want you to recognize that your role in our society in creating social value, it's not just the output. It's not just, a meal that you're serving or a video that you give a client. It actually contributes so much more to what's happening here at home. So I want you first and foremost remember the power that you have. I know a lot of the time as creatives, you do, or your output is doing the influencing, but you as a founder, you as a business owner are the influencer. You chose a business that is influencing the business market, and it's incredibly powerful. So I want you to all get grounded in that first and foremost. As I was building Loom, there was this book that I read that completely changed my mind and actually set the foundation for a lot of our leadership practices. The book was called Soil Leadership. And right away, when you open up the first chapter, the author starts talking about this question. What is the difference between a traditional farmer and a sustainable farmer? The answer is yes and. So the primary difference between a traditional farmer and a sustainable farmer, and you were kind of getting to that, and what was her name? Mai. Is that they attend to all of those things that you all mentioned, but also a primary focus is attending to the soil. There is so much richness and nutrients in the soil that with traditional farmers, the focus is so much around yields. Where sustainable farmers is, yes, that matters, but if you're not paying attention to the condition of the soil, it totally affects the yields. So in my work every single day, still in 2026, I'm constantly having the conversation of, okay, traditional business model versus sustainable business model. Yes, we need to focus on outputs. Yes, we need to deliver these projects. Yes, I got to get this contract out. I got to do all of these things. Sales, 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 money, 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 the bottom line. But when I read this book, my whole mindset shifted because those things don't matter or they won't be sustainable. My work and myself won't matter if I can't tend to the conditions around how I do my work, how I see myself in that work, how my business is operating, and then staying aligned with those things, my values in that. So when I look at the difference between a creative business and a sustainable business, right? The creatives that I typically work with, they're just out there getting businesses as much as they can, and they're struggling with their sales pipeline and automating things because they're just worried about getting things done. But also, creatives are so attached to the deliverable because it's an expression of themselves that they're not thinking about the conditions and the other components that they need to be building alongside of the deliverable. So in that, I want you to pay attention to how you're leading yourself, pay attention to how your business is operating, and pay attention to whether your values are actually integrated in the way that you work, because this is what makes something sustainable. It's not just that it grows, but that it can keep growing in a way that's healthy and grounded and meaningful to you. So if you were my client, if you came to me and you said, Melisa, I need help. I want to grow my business. I love what I do, but I'm struggling here. I'm kind of all over the place. This is a method of how I would approach you and how I would help you figure out the way forward. First of all, we have to tackle how you think, because otherwise we're just putting a Band-Aid on the work. I can't just look at you and just solve your problems by saying, hey, you need to just get more sales, because that's not the answer typically. We got to look at the root of everything, and your mindset is number one. Then we'll look at the foundation of how you're operating your business. How many people here have sold a service, have landed a gig? Raise your hand. How many, okay, that's almost everyone. How many people have been in business longer than 2 years? Great. How many people are just starting? They're in the idea phase? Kind of. Okay. The foundation is how you operate. So this is how you pay attention to the things that and how you do things. Can you make the processes repeatable? And then lastly, which is a proprietary method of Loom, this is We talk about minimum viable impact, where you will select one form of impact to integrate into your operations, into your strategy, into your entire value system, right? We're not talking about sustainability as in, okay, at the end of the year, I made extra revenue, I'm gonna donate to a charity, or I'm gonna pay my employees an extra bonus. That's an add-on. We're talking about sustainability as a way to differentiate the way that you do business. It is fully integrated into the work that you do. So first with cultivation, this is your mindset. You know, I remember when I met with a photographer, and he was asking me about, or he was kind of expressing to me, all I do is I stay up late, I do edits, and then I have to do the delivery in about 2 days, and then I have to do more edits, and then somewhere in between all of this, I have to go and find new clients. And I asked him, I was like, well, who are you delivering for, and why are you delivering these things, like these outputs? And it became a question where he was just doing a service, and there wasn't any real depth of, well, this is why I want to do it. This isn't a reflection of me. It's just, I have a skill set. I can do design. I can do website creation. And you completely get lost in the actual root of the business. The vision is gone. The mission is gone. You're just following the dollars. So in cultivation, it's what am I growing and for what? And this mindset shifts this chasing dollars, chasing projects to alignment. I am known for doing this type of work, and I'm going to be doing these type of works, and I'm going to find people and develop my strategies around these types of projects. You are taking the control back to you instead of this external approach constantly chasing. This also shifts your mindset into control of your mission, keeps you back and grounded so that you are not being pulled in every single direction. So some things that you want to think about is, are all of the yeses aligned to your mission? How am I doing by saying yes to all of these things? Are you feeling it in your body, the burnout? Are you feeling a stretch? Did you just say to a project that's $20,000 because it's $20,000? Like, do you have the capacity to actually do those projects? Are you gonna have to Google, certain techniques in order to say yes to those? And most importantly, am I jeopardizing the quality of myself, and am I jeopardizing the quality of the work? So first, always you. I always have to talk to my clients and say, we're talking about you first and how you think through things, because then you can talk about how you run and operate your business. So then the foundation is what makes growth repeatable. So are all of your intakes and inquiries coming in from like a DM, a text message, maybe an email? Are you kind of all over the place? Or do you have an actual system where the inquiries are coming in through your website? That's your lead generator. Then that turns into a intro meeting. And then that intro meeting turns into contracts. Does the contract then turn into like a payment link? I remember the first photographer that I got, she went through this, she had the most beautiful inquiry to end closing of our contract I've ever seen. She was the first person that was able to operationalize her whole entire system. And she was able to do that and then repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And she was able to track everything that she does. And that allowed her to take on huge projects. That allowed her to she was very clear on her services. The process was clear. The creativity wasn't lost, but the foundation and the structure was clear enough that it gave her freedom, right? And I know sometimes the idea of so much structure might be ick because, that might stunt my creativity. But if you're someone that wants to move from hobby creativity work to business growth, integrating your creativity, there has to be structure within the business side of things. And then lastly, with MBI, is how are you aligning your values with your offer? Can you choose an impact lane? So some businesses, let's say makers, we might have a maker that focuses on their sourcing. They'll make sure that they're choosing ethical clay, or they're using, they're paying attention to their packaging. Their targets are around minimum waste. For photographers, they're focused on local collaborative partners, things like that. That would be an impact lane that you would integrate into the actual work. And you notice that it's not a side or an add-on piece to this. And it becomes operational to the point that it helps dictate how you grow and how you work. So I wanted to give you a case study of how this looks and what this looks like. So my friend, and I put the QR code there in case you wanted to check out their website. So Paul Lynch, he is the founder of Cage Free Productions. And what makes Paul's business helpful as a case study is not just that it's the final result of him being who he is now, but he had a very strategic shift underneath all the work that he did. So a lot of creatives, he states this, they fall into this easy trap of staying in this output mode, right? Like clients ask for content, you make the content, you deliver the content, and then everyone's back to zero within 6 weeks, and then you have to go and find another client to do the same thing over and over again. So he calls this a treadmill, and that it becomes expensive, it's exhausting, and honestly, it's easy to normalize. And this applies to regular businesses too, especially in the startup phase. So it's not just creatives or film or artists in that sense. But what Paul's thought leadership points to is that when you move out of the treadmill and into strategy, this can really map back out to what I talked about here, cultivation, foundation, and MBI. So when it comes to cultivation, he moved from this idea of, I make videos, right? I don't know if you've ever introduced yourself or tried to simplify how you describe your work to someone that's like, I make videos. I can do a website for you. I can make social media reels for you. And it's a dilution of what you can actually do, right? Well, he switched from this idea of I make videos to I have a point of view about what good storytelling should do. So this might sound simple, but it's leadership move. So he's asking, what can I make? He's not asking, what can I make? He's asking, what kind of storyteller am I? And what am I becoming? And what kind of work do I want to be known for? Which I thought was really beautiful in how he phrased this. And two, with the second part, which is our foundation and operations, he looked at what he was producing and instead of focusing on so much of the output, he was focusing on how can I create more value for my client. So this is where his business got stronger, because instead of treating everything with the one-off, he was figuring out how many assets can I create with one aspect of my work. So can I create something that generated longer shelf life? Can I chop this up into smaller bits? Can I create something for a client that actually talks more about the storytelling aspect for my company? And when we talk about evergreen, it could last on social media, it could go on the web, it had multiple uses. So this was a foundational move for him because it improved, one, the client experience, and two, it created more value for the same body of work. It didn't dilute it, right? We're not talking about, okay, I'm going to give way more of an outcome for the same amount of money. But what you're doing is focusing on quality that matches the right amount of sales and the pricing strategy for what you're doing. So a question that you could ask is, could one shoot that you're doing, this is again for photographers or film, but could one shoot become a fuller campaign? Could one brand project include clear systems? Could one client engagement be designed for repeat value and not just a handoff? And then here for the MBI, this is where the values really stop living in the caption side of things, but become more of like my values and more of a nice to have or less of a nice to have. But it's where he has decided to focus on helping purpose-driven businesses really hone in on their story in a way that is credible, that is not degrading of power structures. When we're talking about equity and social justice here, he sits down to listen to everyone in the ecosystem, and he tells the story in a rich, reflective, authentic voice. A sustainable business is not just, a more successful business and it looks good at the end, or the quality is just as good. It's stronger because it learns how to move through the messy middle with more intention. So in this, I want to invite you today. First off, I don't expect you all to leave by trying to do every single pillar. It takes businesses years to navigate mindset, foundation, and MBI. But you all are at a point where designing these components, even in just one small way, in the earlier stages, you have true advantage from someone who has a full-grown business and then is trying to shift their operations, shift their systems, shift their cultures into more sustainable practices. You have an advantage right now to start incorporating some of these points now. So the challenge that I'm going to leave you is pick one. Focus on a mindset shift. Focus on a business system that you want to structure, restructure, or figure out one way to integrate your values into your current business model. Figure out what feels the most aligned and just go there. The way that we talk to our founders is we have them focus on one, create a whole system around it, track it, measure it, show the true impact of it, that it becomes something that's replicable, and then do it again in each of those components. And then you will quickly grow as a business into something that differentiates you from other businesses, because you're creating and you're leading from a place that is truly aligned to you. You're not copying anyone else. You've dictated that your impact model and your value system is all integrated, which no one can recreate. That is all you. So this model is something that I encourage and I challenge all of you to take one step forward into making that happen. Thank you. And these are ways that you can get connected with me. If you click here, this is our link tree. We have a couple activities that we're doing at Illume. We're based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, so we're just, 55 minutes away. Harrisburg, you guys are a sister city, right? We have a collective that we are starting for founders that want to integrate impact into their business and don't know necessarily how to do it. We have an Outlands program where we lead out in nature. We have a partnership with the Lancaster Conservancy where leaders learn leadership practices and mindsets out in nature, which is really fun. For those that are interested in the MBI guide, it's free. You can email me and I'll send it to you right away. And I encourage you just to join our mailing list if you want to go on one of our trips in the near future.